Om Ganatimanandasyam Gananganasarakya Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanyamano Vishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sham Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Ragadatam Vitam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savidutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Shtam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyavadi Praskita De Sadarine Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinubandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandir Matir Gati Matsarvasya Parambo Jarada Ramadan Mohanam Sriman Rasarasaram Vivam Sivara Karsan Panashanurpika Gopanata Suryasaram Divyad Rendaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Ratnagari Shima Shanishto Sri Sri Radhishita Govindada Prasadavihi Sevam Manashmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chadigari Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So glad you could join us on Motivational Monday morning. Jay from Phoenix, Gene. We've got Rob also here on the Zoom call. I think 12 has been our record for revisiting verses, and we're at that same benchmark here for the 19th verse in the 8th chapter, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just love discussing the idea of how Krishna covers his omnipotency. He is like an actor on the stage who disguises his real identity in order to make the audience totally buy into the particular role that he's playing. And so Krishna plays various roles to perfection for the satisfaction of his devotees. Whether he's playing a role of neutrality or he's playing a role of servitorship, he's playing a role in relationship to his friends, Saka, or his parents, Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, Vasudeva, Devaki, or whether it's in connection with the gopis, the cowherd milkmaids of Vrindavan. Nobody ever has played any single role better than Krishna, but Krishna plays an ordinary actor, John Barrymore, Richard Burton, who are the names that come to mind, can only play one role at a time. And they can only play it up to a certain level of believability of perfection. But Krishna is playing trillions, gazillions of roles simultaneously. Each and every devotee who has purified themselves through devotional service thinks that Krishna is with him or her and him or her only. They don't have any idea. It's not possible for them to accommodate the thought that just as Krishna is so fully giving himself to them, the level of Krishna's giving is so far beyond anything that we're used to, that we cannot comprehend the fact that Krishna is also giving himself fully and completely to gazillion other devotees at the same time, that he has expanded himself. He has appeared before each and every devotee exactly according to the inner desires of their heart. And how does Krishna know the innermost desire of the hearts of each and every devotee? Because he put those desires there. He forged us originally with his hand. He made each and every one of us unique. So he's fully conversant. He knows us better than we know ourselves. Right now in our conditioned state, we think we're black or white or male or female or Caucasian. We think we're Catholic or Hindu or Muslim. Krishna knows who we really are. Once you remove the material covering, once that pure spirit soul, which emanates from the supreme pure Lord, has become purified, once it's no longer covered by the illusory material energy, our real identity emerges. Right now in our conditioned state, we don't know who we really are in eternity. We have to purify ourselves. We have to do devotional service. And eventually the Lord will lift that covering so that we'll come to know who it is that we really are. Right now, it's like we're sleeping. And in the sleep, we're dreaming, we're flying to the sky. There's so many different things happening to us. But all the time, we are unaware of the fact that we're sleeping in our bed in Spanish Fork, Utah. We're totally swept away by the illusions of that dream state. When we wake up, we'll realize that I'm Caru, I'm in Spanish Fork, Utah. So analogously speaking, we have hardly any idea of who we are in the spiritual sense, whether we're in neutrality or servitorship, friendship or parental love, or in the conjugal position of the gopis. Mukdo pirirad bidriyachityam marajamashmam madhyam yatanabutam pratyatim tuainanagharintam. Just like a sleeping man, he doesn't know, he's unaware of his daytime identity. And during the daytime, we're unaware of whatever identity it was that we had assumed the previous night we were sleeping. And so either daytime dreaming or nighttime dreaming, the living beings in this material world are hardly aware at all of their eternal relationship with Krishna. So Krishna reveals that relationship to one in due course of time. In the meantime, he guides us, he illuminates us, he gives us directions from within the heart, how we can take one step after another step after another step after another step on the progressive path back to home, back to God. Now, I promised you last week that we would talk about Brahma Vimohan, the pastime where Lord Brahma, wanting to test the powers of Krishna. And most commentaries think that Brahma's motives come from the fact that he's created the universe. He's got a sense of proprietorship. He says, I created it. It's my universe. He's been sovereign in this universe for hundreds of thousands of years. So there's a sense of ego that creeps in, a sense of proprietorship and possessiveness. And so that when this cowherd boy descends and enacts these unimaginably enchanting pastimes in the rural village of Vrindavan, he naturally becomes curious and he wants to prod, just like you put the poker in the fire to prod, stir up the coals and maybe get a flame again. So Lord Brahma is not sure what he's seeing here, but he feels intruded upon. He feels that, why does Krishna get all this attention? So he wants to stir things up. And while Krishna is out with the cowherd boys tending the cows one afternoon, some of the calves are said to be straggling, wandered away from the herd. And Krishna offers to go out on his own. He doesn't want to disturb his Gopa friends who are having lunch. And so he says, you guys sit here and have your lunch. I'll go and get the stragglers, bring them back to the herd, and I'll join you in just a few minutes. So when Krishna is absent, Lord Brahma steals all the calves and boys, puts them to sleep in a cave somewhere. However, when he looks back, there's a whole nother set there. Now Krishna, while he's in the interim period, when he's stolen the cows and cowherd boys, Krishna comes back and Krishna looks at the vacancy there, and Krishna stands as if bewildered. He stands as if he doesn't know what he's seeing here. He just left the cows and the calves and the cowherd boys a few minutes ago. He looks back and they're all gone. And so he stands there playing the role. Lord Brahma wants to see Krishna stunned. Krishna is not ever stunned. Vedaham samadhitani vartamani. He knew what Brahma is going to do before Brahma even did it. He's in the heart of Brahma. So Krishna's never stunned by anything. Nothing ever takes Krishna by surprise. Andantarishtu paramanu chayantarishtam. He is fully present within each and every atom. Not even an atom goes to the left that Krishna doesn't know about it beforehand. Or if the atom goes to the right, Krishna knows about it beforehand. A blade of grass doesn't move without Krishna knowing about it. Sparrow, insignificant sparrow, doesn't fall to the ground without Krishna knowing about it. So don't think that Krishna is actually bewildered by the trickery of Lord Brahma. But Brahma is a devotee, and he wanted to see Krishna bewildered. He thought, I'll show this young coward boy a thing or two. That was Brahma's desire. It wasn't entirely a pure desire, but it wasn't impure either. Brahma wanted to, sometimes kids will do something outrageous, disobedient. They just want to get the parents' attention. That's all. It's out of love. My parrot, Pedro, he's a blue and gold macaw. If I don't spend time with him, at least an hour every couple of days or so, let's say I've been to Salt Lake City on a Saturday night, given the talk. I may spent the night in Salt Lake City. So I'm coming back after a couple of days. So Pedro's so happy to see me, and I pick him up and he's so happy. But then he bites me. He bites me, and he bites hard too. And I'm like, I thought we were friends. Why did you bite me? But he's biting me because he wants to send me a message that I missed you. I loved you. And he wants to get my attention because he feels like I'm shortchanging him, that I'm not giving him the attention that he basks in. So Brahma is a devotee. And he may be a little bit feeling left out. Why is Krishna giving all of his attention to the inhabitants of Vrindavan? I want some of his attention. So just like a child is often disobedient, only out of love for the parents, that the child wants the parents to pay a little bit more attention to him. So it may be that Brahma is causing a little bit of trouble, stirring things up a bit in order to get Krishna's attention. Brahma wants to do something, the result of which governs Krishna's attitude and behavior, even if it's for a moment. It's like a child. When the parent takes a child to the park, there's swings and slides, but the parent might start talking to other parents, and the child might feel they're ignored. They're with the other children, it's true, and that's satisfying for them. But at their heart of hearts, they want the parents not to ignore them. And so a child may get up on the top of the slide and shout out, "Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, look at me, look at me." And then they slide down the slide. So Brahma is basically saying, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, look at me, look at me, look at me," jumping up, waving his arms, so to speak, metaphorically speaking. So he steals all of Krishna's friends and coward boys to see, well, Krishna's going to have to do something. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's going to have to do something. This is certainly provocative. Saying, let me provoke Krishna, see what he does. Now, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsal. He's the servant of his devotees. So Brahma wanted to show off. He wanted to show his mystic powers. He wanted to impress Krishna. So Krishna, for a moment, stood there all alone with a little bit of food in his hand, as it's described, playing the role of an ordinary boy who is bewildered at the disappearance of his friends and domestic animals. This is in accord, or by way of reciprocation, with the desire of Brahma to impress Krishna and to get Krishna's attention. Fact is, Krishna himself isn't in the least bit impressed by Brahma's mystic powers. For Krishna, it's like, ho hum, meh, meh, tene Brahma ridaya adikvaya myanti surya. Whatever mystic powers Brahma has are borrowed plumes from Krishna himself. Don't forget that when Brahma appeared originally on the lotus flower, he was surrounded by darkness. He didn't, everywhere he looked, there was darkness, there was ignorance. He didn't know what to do. He had some instinct to create a universe. That was his desire. Krishna is going to fulfill his desire. But first of all, Krishna wants to make the point that you cannot do this on your own. If you're going to create a universe, it's only going to be because of my mercy, because of the powers that I give you. And so Lord Brahma, first of all, he wanted to find out what his origin was, where he come from. So he crawled down the stem of the lotus flower. He investigated. He engaged in empirical scientific research with the senses that he had. And he went down and down and down and down for hundreds and thousands of miles down into the stem of that lotus flower. And he found nothing. It was just interminable. There was no end to it. So then he came back up. He sat again on the lotus flower. Everywhere's darkness. Tata Shambhavir Kavir Atodiyan Vasharam Tambijam Atmi Tatambija Nivinda Adapta Shatambino Jate Ankram Katam Upalabija Bijam. It said Brahma could not find the source of the universe that has existed at that time, just in the same way that once a seed fructifies and grows, a seed becomes a big, tiny, microscopic seed, becomes a huge banyan tree. And once that seed has germinated and sprouted and become a banyan tree, guess what? You can no longer find the original seed. So Lord Brahma could not trace out the seed, his very source. So therefore, he responded to a voice coming from outer space that said, tapa, do austerities. In other words, tap into a higher power. Putrena yagyadanam, yoga shamadi shamadinam, ridam nishraya shushum mat pritish tatpatam mama. Lord Krishna says, Putrena yagyadanam. He says, the perfection of doing sacrifices, the perfection of giving in charity, the perfection of austerities, the perfection of yoga, mat pritish tatpatam mama, is ultimately for my satisfaction. Anything that one does should be in order to tap into the greater power of Krishna, recognizing that on our own, we cannot do anything. So it is said, Tene Brahma Ridaya Arikvayamatyashara. It was Lord Krishna who appeared before Brahma as the fruit of his austerities and imparted to Brahma from within the heart everything that Brahma needed in order to create this universe. So considering this background information, let us not mistakenly think that Krishna was bewildered by what Brahma did. Krishna knew what Brahma was going to do before he could do it. And compared to Krishna's mystic powers, Brahma's mystic powers are insignificant. So when Brahma looked back, he saw that the set of calves and cowherd boys that he'd taken away had been some or other replaced. He went and looked in the cave just to make sure the original set was still there. And then he looked back. And then Brahma, who wanted to bewilder Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated. Krishna satisfied Brahma. Brahma saw Krishna standing there with a little morsel of food in his hand as if he was absent-minded. I mean, just think about how genius that little morsel of food in Krishna's hand was. Krishna's the greatest actor, and actors know how not only to deliver their lines, not only how to disguise themselves and walk and gesture according to the role that they're playing, but they also know how to use props to their maximal effect. So here's Krishna standing paralyzed as if he doesn't know what he's seeing. It's almost Krishna is playing as if he can't compute what he's seen, that where there was a whole set, a whole company of boys and girls, boys and calves and lunch and walking sticks and buffalo horn. Now it's just a vacant spot. Krishna is standing as if he can't figure out what's going on, as if he's over his head, as if he's bewildered. But the genius is that he's holding a little morsel of food in his hand. This is a prop to try to satisfy Brahma. Krishna is going to present himself as undone, Basically, that's the role. He's just undone to the point that he's got some food in his hand. And maybe because of the warmth of his hand, it might even be melting. See what I'm saying? Getting all sticky and yucky in his hand. He's become so otherwise engaged in trying to figure out what Brahma's done here that he forgot about this food, which is melting in his hand. It's just absolute genius. So when Lord Brahma sees this, and I'm sure most of the commentators, they take it that Lord Brahma is suffering from false ego, suffering from an excess of pride, and all these things. But what if on one level, Brahma intentionally and consciously and with premeditation and deliberately provoked Krishna just so he could see how Krishna would reciprocate to his action. He wanted to perform an action to see what Krishna's reaction would be, and not by way of challenging him, but Brahma himself wanted to fall head over heels into an ocean of disorientation, of vertigo, just not, he wanted to see Krishna disarmed. He wanted to see Krishna in the role of someone who had been bewildered by the mystic powers of Brahma. Just like this child comes down the slide and the parents, wow, that was amazing. You have so much courage. You have so much athletic ability. I can't believe that you went from the top of the slide to the bottom of the slide. You didn't fall to the left or the right. You bounced up on your feet. It's amazing. Of course, there's nothing to going down the slide. There's nothing to it. But the parent, because the parent knows what the child wants. The parent knows the reaction that the child is hoping for. So the parent is playing a role. Wow, it's not impressive to the parent. That same parent might sit in front of the TV and watch the Dallas Cowboys or the New Orleans Saints or the New England Patriots, wide ends and quarterbacks do athletic feats that are 100 times more expert than that child going down the slide. So they're well familiar with acts of athleticism and prowess, but they know what the child wants, and they, in an exaggerated way, to fulfill the innermost desires of the child, they make a big deal of the child going down the slide. So when Krishna is standing there with a little morsel of food in his hand, paralyzed, apparently stunned by the quote unquote mystic power, the prowess of Brahma, he is acting a role. He is fulfilling a role. He is overacting. He personally isn't the least bit impressed in what Lord Brahma did, nor is he the least bit surprised. But Brahma is a devotee. Brahma has an innermost desire of his heart. Krishna put that desire in there. Every time a child calls out to the parent, look at me, that's because Krishna put the desire in our hearts to do something and to be noticed by the Lord. And there's nothing we can do that will in any way impress the Lord. But the Lord is captured. The Lord is bound by the love with which we want his attention. He fulfilled he fulfilled the inner desire of Lord Brahma's heart, which Krishna put there in the first place. Krishna fashioned Brahma with his own hand in a unique way. Brahma is unlike any other. So Brahma chose this particular strategy to challenge Krishna, to provoke Krishna, to try to get Krishna to be impressed with his mystic powers. Krishna knows all of that. Nothing that Brahma did was a surprise to Krishna. So he fulfilled Brahma's desires. initially by appearing overwhelmed and stunned by Brahma's mystic power. Wow, you're so great. You did that. You took my friends and my cows away and hid them in a cave and put them to sleep. Wow, that's amazing. You're something else. Woo. And then having done that, then he replaces the whole set. And as Lord Brahma looks back, checks the cage, looks back, before his eyes, Krishna knows Brahma's looking. Brahma's kind of from a hiding place. It's kind of looking, concealing himself, kind of looking from a hiding place to see what's going on. Krishna knows everything. He knows Brahma's in hiding. He knows Brahma's peeking. So he causes each one of those calves and cowherd boys to reveal a four-armed Vishnu form. When Brahma sees that, okay, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Fun time is over. You know, you had your moment. Now let's get back to reality. Okay. And Brahma, he now lost his composure. He now became stunned and paralyzed. Turnabout's fair play, Krishna says. He realized with full impact, it just smacked Brahma in the face. At that moment where Krishna stood there with a little morsel of food in his mouth, acting as if he was bewildered, was simply that. It was play acting. And now Krishna's pulling a rabbit or two out of his own hat. And compared to what Brahma can do, Krishna is overwhelmingly powerful. Brahma starts getting dizzy for his own part. Brahma gets stunned and paralyzed for his own part. Each one of those calves and cowherd boys is a full-fledged four-arm Vishnu expansion of the Lord. And that's why this pastime is called Brahma Vimohan. Vimohan means illusion. It means disoriented. It means in over one's head. And so Brahma, in his turn, becomes totally bewildered. And he says, others may claim to have mystic powers and yogic siddhis, but as for myself, my power to create a universe, my power to populate the universe with millions and millions of living beings is compared to the power of Krishna's, like the power of a firefly on a summer's night, as opposed to the sun itself. The sun puts out millions and millions of BTUs since millions and millions of uncountable years. A firefly appears after the sun goes down on a summer's evening, and just little tiny emanations of light. And only in the darkness. And once the sun comes up, nobody knows the fireflies. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody notices them. Nobody sees their illumination. The firefly is only significant in the dark, in the absence of the sun. So Lord Brahma says, my powers, my mystic powers to create and populate and maintain an entire universe are only impressive in the absence of Krishna showing his powers. Otherwise, my powers are insignificant. Prabhupada gave the example when he was on the boat coming to America, the Jaladuta. They crossed the Cape of Horn, the South African Cape, where the seas are notoriously turbulent. In fact, there were storms for several consecutive days, and each day Prabhupada had a heart attack, and the boat was being tossed around like a matchstick in the vastness and the turbulence of the Atlantic Ocean. So Prabhupada says, on my passage to America, how insignificant the ship was, like a matchbox in the midst of the ocean. He says, Krishna's intelligence resembles the vast, unlimited ocean. And he said, the best course is not to challenge Krishna's intelligence like Lord Brahma did, but to surrender to Krishna's intelligence. Krishna is one without a second. Brahma, Shiva, Ganesh, Indra, Chandru, Vayu, their powers, their prowess, their stature, their influence is insignificant compared to the omnipotency of Krishna. And in spite of that, in spite of Krishna's superiority, because Krishna himself likes to stay in the background. Krishna doesn't need people clapping and applauding and acknowledging him. Krishna is completely Atmarama, is completely self-satisfied. So he very rarely brags. He very rarely puts him forward in a noticeable way. But because of Lord Brahma, and thanks to Lord Brahma, we see Krishna exhibiting his super excellent mystic powers in response to the innermost desire of his devotee. On one level, Brahma was challenging Krishna out of false ego. On another level, he was challenging Krishna as a devotee, as a child who wanted to impress the father with his mystic powers. Now, what Brahma exhibited is not uncommon in this material world. Everybody in this material world is infected by false ego. We have our real ego, but in this dreamlike condition of this material world where we're covered by the influence of Krishna's material energy, we think we're this body. We think we're black or white or Christian or Hindu or Muslim or Jew or male or female. This is false ego. Many people think to solve the false ego problem, we have to remove ego altogether. But that will not solve the problem. Your ego is there. It's a immutable, permanent fact. Krishna created us all individual, eternally fragmented parts and parcels so that we can love him, so that we can enjoy a reciprocal relationship back and forth between two living entities. But under the influence of false ego, everybody thinks they're important. Everybody wants to hear their name. Everybody wants attention turned to them. Everybody thinks I am the best person in the world. Why I should take knowledge from a superior authority. Why I should bow down coming to the temple. Why I should accept a spiritual master. Why I should read Bhagavad Gita. In my 50 years as a devotee, I can't tell you how many times I've offered a Bhagavad Gita to someone born in India, and they refused it, saying, I come from there. I am knowing all of these things. I don't need to read Bhagavad Gita. I know Bhagavad Gita. I know everything. I have my own interpretation. Bhagavad Gita is right there before their eyes. And they're refusing to read the Bhagavad Gita because they already know the Bhagavad Gita. How they know the Bhagavad Gita without reading the Bhagavad Gita, it beats me. And how they can understand the Bhagavad Gita without following the very prescription of the Gita. Gita prescribes to understand the Gita. You have to understand it by serving a bona fide spiritual master, because one who has seen the truth can impart knowledge unto you. So covered are we in this material world that even though we're insignificant, we think that we're hot shots. We think that we are the cat's meow. This is called the covering influence. And not only are we ejected from the eternal spiritual world and disenfranchised from our original relationship with Krishna and our original spiritual bodies of Satchidananda, not only are we thrown into this material world like sparks are thrown away from the fire, but we're also covered. We're thrown, and then to keep us in this material world, because that's our desire, Krishna fulfills our desire by covering us. Says the conditioned living being, having fallen so far to this material world of birth, death, disease, old age, hunger, thirst, pimple, AIDS, COVID, cancer, nuclear weapons, stress, anxiety, competition, envy, having fallen so far from the original pristine atmosphere of the spiritual world, he, due to the covering influence of material nature, he thinks himself satisfied. Whatever species of life it might be in, whatever planet he might be in, so powerful and diluting is the material energy of the Lord that the living being feels little inclined to educate himself, to rehabilitate himself, to read the Bhagavad Gita, to bow down in the temple, to take a spiritual. He thinks, I don't need this. I know everything. I've got it all together. He's living subject to birth, death, disease, and old age, hunger, thirst, the scorching of summer, the blasting of winter, the hurricanes, the climate change, the tornadoes, the divorces, the drive-by shootings, the war in Ukraine. He's living amongst all of this thinking, this is pretty good. Yeah. Why should I try to improve my situation? Why should I try for this pie in the sky, phantasmagoria, spiritual world? I have my home, I have my meat, I have my beer, I have my liquor, I have my sex life, I have my roof over my head, I have the latest Apple gadget, I have my Subaru. There's no hunger, there's no hankering, there's no sense of alarm. Samsrita ye para palava babam mahat panyamasha babam vatsara param param yabipadam. They don't realize that this material world is so made that there's danger at every single step. Every single step holds a hazard. Bali Maharaj, he'd conquered the demigods. He sat on the throne of Indra. He had as much security as you can possibly imagine. And yet when Vamanadeva, as we discussed last week, took everything from him, divested him of all that temporary material opulence, he expressed his deep gratitude. Said people get money in the bank, they get a house, they get all this technology, and they forget about the fact that at any moment, this can all be ripped away. The cars are going at 80 miles an hour on the freeway. The hearts are overworked due to cholesterol and arteriosclerosis, due to stress and hypertension. There's so many deaths due to COVID, and deaths due to AIDS, and deaths due to cancer. In our own generation, look at Steve Jobs. He'd reached the pinnacle of success. He's an icon, a hero, a celebrity, and yet he had to succumb. He had to give up his life, his beloved family, his company, Apple, and go who knows where when death tapped him on the shoulder. So Bali Maharaj says, Atahamatma ripashtipakaha devairataram pashavam idam krintantiki bartijiram yayaduvam stabira duvam is the accident. At any moment, this hazardous, dangerous material world, you can have an accident, everything could be finished. Will Rogers, the American comedian, he used to quip. He said, in the old days, before all this speed and technology, nuclear weapons and drones and rockets and missiles and automatic weapons, he says, in the old days, people used to live until they die. Now they just live until they get run over or shot. And yet everybody thinks, I've got it together. It's not so bad. So people generally do not appreciate someone unless they do something wonderful. The Lord Brahma, again, another motive of Lord Brahma in provoking Lord Krishna is, okay, if he's God, let him show, let me prod him, let me provoke him and see what it is that he does to prove that he is God. And initially, Krishna acted stunned and paralyzed because that was also a devotion, a desire of Brahma. But after that moment had passed and Lord Brahma's heartfelt desire was satisfied, Krishna exhibited such mystic powers that the creator of the universe didn't know whether he was up or down. So one lesson that we take away from this is, if you challenge God, that's not a very good policy. If you try to measure God, you try to figure out the length and breadth of his power and his influences, his knowledge and his majesty, That's not a very good policy. The best policy is just to recognize that Chinta Kaloya Bhava Tapta Kanayoja, that the power, the majesty, the knowledge of God is far beyond our power to comprehension, and just surrender. Just become an instrument. Tajma tvam utishta yashopadasha jitpatra mayam nimitar matra bhavasavasachin. Krishna says, it's all done already. I've already done it. I've already planned this out since the beginning of time. It's set into motion. Nobody can change what my desire is. All you can do. Tajma tvam utishta yasho jitpashakambara. Arjuna, your choice is not to steer the course of events towards this goal or to steer the course of events towards that goal. Arjuna, frankly, speaking honestly between you and me, whether you decide individually to fight or not doesn't really make any difference because the outcome is already preordained. Your choice is either to become an instrument in the fight or to stand back and not be part of what my plan is. Of course, Arjuna made the right choice. He said, it's preordained. Says that when you agree, when you get in the middle, when you become true to the purpose for which Krishna created you, then by Krishna's grace, not by your own efforts, but by Krishna's grace, nothing is impossible to achieve. Tashman tushtam kim arpyam. Tushtam means if you satisfy Krishna, kim aprapyam, there is nothing which cannot be attained. There's nothing which cannot be achieved. Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. Devotees do not know anything as being impossible because they have the power, the favor of the Lord in their direction. Tashman, nothing is impossible to attain, provided you first and foremost satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it says that's how Brahma got to be Brahma. That's how Indra got to be Indra. That's how Varuna got to be the treasure of the demigods. That's how Vayu got to be the Lord of the wind. That's how Varuna got to be in charge of the oceans. So if you want power and influence in your life, simply surrender. Simply surrender in humility at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who played the role so expertly according to the innermost desire of Lord Brahma, of being bewildered by Brahma's mystic powers, satisfied the devotion desire of Lord Brahma by standing there as if struck with wonder, trying to compute why there was a vacancy where a few moments before there had been cows and cowherd boys absent-mindedly holding a morsel of food in his hand. I think of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was living in Navadvip as a scholar. He would go up to impersonalistic, monistic scholars, and he would ask them, tell me your philosophy, as if he didn't know it already, as if he didn't have the arguments and counter arguments. And they would tell him his philosophy, and he would listen. He would pretend to listen as if this was new information. He would give them the respect of listening. And then he would give a counter argument, as if he was listening and figuring out and then he was framing his retorts, his comments, and as if he was actually having a conversation. Now, the inspiration for the monistic philosopher comes from within the heart, according to the desire of the individual. So Lord Chaitanya is God. He's giving the monistic philosopher the arguments to present to Lord Chaitanya who's playing the role of a scholar in Navadvip. And Lord Chaitanya is acting the role that he's hearing those arguments for the first time. He's sorting through them and then giving the devotional response. And then he invites the monistic philosopher to take it to the next level, to counter-respond. And he's giving that monistic philosopher the extra arguments to then respond a second time to Lord Chaitanya. Again, Lord Chaitanya is playing the role of hearing it and computing it all And then he gives the counter arguments until such time as the monistic philosopher comes to the realization that I am talking with God. God is playing with me. He's toying with me. Yesterday out on the veranda, our cat came up. I was sitting on the swing. The cat comes up with this mouse in his mouth. And he's right in front of me. The cat's showing off. He's showing off. He puts the mouse down. The mouse is stunned. The mouse doesn't do anything. The cat's like trying to look nonchalant. Cat's playing the role that if the mouse wants to get away, he can certainly go away. Of course, the cat's on all alert. At the corner of his eye, he's looking at the mouse to see when the mouse is going to make his move, and then he'll be right on top of him. But he wants to act nonchalant. The mouse is so traumatized. The mouse sits there for about 10 minutes. And finally, the cat acts more and more nonchalant. Cat moves away 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. Finally, the cat lies down, pretends to go to sleep, with just looking at, waiting for the mouse to make his move. So the Mayavadi philosopher, after all of this, comes to the realization, it dawns on him by the mercy of God, that this young boy, this pre-teenage boy, is messing with me. He's playing with me like a cat plays. He's pretending that he's hearing all this for the first time, that he's making up his response, and that this is all new for him. This is all fresh for him. He's pretending to have a dialogue with me when in fact, his knowledge, his power, his depth is beyond my puny ability to comprehend. He's bringing the philosophers to that point of simply giving it up, a chinta koye bab and a tamsta, realizing that this God who plays various roles according to the innermost desire to satisfy his devotees, this supreme unlimited God, he is a servant of his devotees. He plays various roles, assumes various costumes and various props in order to please his devotees. So that Lord who is unconquerable, who is supreme, who is unlimited, agrees to be contained, conditioned, and to reciprocate with his devotees in gazillion different roles which he plays beyond our furthest idea of perfection. Om Tat Sat. What time is it? Oh, we've gone a little over today. It's actually almost 20 past the hour. I'm sorry if I've kept you. You have work to do. You have a commute to make. Whatever it is, we are most appreciative that you took the time to be with us this morning. While hopefully Rob has a few phrases today to summarize our discussion topics today, and he'll send those to me later so I can include them on the Facebook post. But let me thank Madhava for being with us this morning. Appreciate that. Manasa Ganga is painting a picture of Tulsi. It's amazing. I don't know if you can post it later on for the comments of all of our members of our forum here. But Manasa Ganga is painting a really, really enchanting picture of Tulsi. I would like her to share that with you if she's so inclined. Good morning, Govinda Dev, Hare Krishna, Bhakta Gary, Jean. Good morning. Good morning, Ram Kishore. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, humble base. And thanks, Ram Kishore, for contributing. By the way, if you have 11 or 21 or 51 or 101 or 501 or $1,001 that you're looking to give to a good cause, we have a fundraiser now for a set of gates, not only to beautify the entrance to the temple, but also to provide much needed security in this day and age. You've got to be considered naive if you don't take steps to protect what Krishna has given you. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are also there in the spiritual world as well. They're just Krishna-centered. So it's beautiful property, which we see behind me. We want to defend it against miscreants, culprits, vandals, thieves, rogues. I think you'll agree with me that they're out there. And they even find their way sometimes to a place like Spanish Fork, Utah. When we first came here, there was nothing but empty farmlands around us. Population was very much less in 1981. But so many people have moved in from so many parts of the country. And along with them, of course, the number of problems as the population increases, the number of problems increase. And while most people in Utah are really, 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 really good people, there's always going to be a percentage of miscreants and maldoers and villains. And so we'd be amiss in our duties to Krishna if we didn't provide some security. And as long as we're going to provide security, might as well make it artistic, a beautiful work of art. So we have a GoFundMe campaign going right now to raise money for those gates. They're normally 30,000. We actually got a couple of quotes for 30,000, including installation and the remote. But we're going to be able to do this for under $10,000, and we're matching every dollar. So if we raise $5,000, we're going to match those $5,000 with $5,000 of our own. We'd like to thank Ram Kishore for being one of our contributors as well. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Brent. Thank you all. I will let you go to do what you have to do during this Motivational Monday, and look forward to being together with you on this forum 23 hours from now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. Oh, I almost forgot. Rob, yeah. How could I think of ending without hearing Rob's pithy little phrases here? Are you there?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So I was only able to write one down today, but I'll share it with you.
Please do.
There were plenty in there, but I just wasn't able to get them down.
Okay.
So Krishna gave desire to help us climb higher.
What was that again? A little slower?
Krishna gave us desire to help us climb higher.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. You'll send that. I'll write it down. It's fresh in my mind. So I'll write it down and include it in the Facebook post. Thank you all once again, everybody, for joining in. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, and I'm most appreciative of you having set aside 50 minutes for this discussion of Lord Brahma's bewilderment. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.